Atletico Madrid has entered the conversation for Wilfried Zaha. Is there a true interest? Could he be headed to Spain? Also, a recap or another look at, should I say, the youngster from Sunderland, Jack Clarke, as well as information on one of our backup keepers undergoing a medical with Rangers. Could he be on the move? We'll see. Tune into another version of the Palace News with none other than your boy T and possibly a guest or two. We'll see y'all in a second. Yo, what's going on, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Palace News. You're tuned in with your man T. Appreciate you all being here with me today. First and foremost, before we get going, can't forget to say, if you enjoy what we do here on Back in the Nest, whether it be the podcast or any of the things that we do on YouTube, please take a second to like, comment, subscribe. Helps us out massively. We appreciate you all that tune in week in and week out to what we got going on. Shout out to everybody that's going to be in the chat today. Apologies for the 30-minute delay. I had a little bit of an issue to attend to, but we here, we ready, we rocking. So let's get it started. First thing, and I think that's the thing that everybody's talking about. Wilf Zaha. It's been reported that there's now interest in him from none other than Atletico Madrid. They've inquired about a possible suit for Wilfried Zaha, and of course, who has until the end of June to decide whether or not to accept Crystal Palace's latest contract offer. And that comes from the Daily Mail. So, as we say, what could be here? What could happen here? So, Atletico Madrid, of course, one of the premier clubs in La Liga, going to be playing Champions League football next year. So, could be a very, very tempting chance for Wilfried Zaha. As we're talking about this in the chat, let me know what you all think. Give me your thoughts on yes, no, no way in hell would you want to see Wilf take a move to La Liga with a team like Atletico. They've got some really talented players already there. Actually, one of my favorite players is actually there now, Memphis Depay, but they got other really talented players like Griezmann, Kondogbia, Rodrigo De Paul. So really talented team. But what do you all think? Do you really feel like this could be something legitimate, or is it just more rumors of what could be? I mean, me personally, I want to keep Will. Let us see Will stay, but we'll see how it feels. As a matter of fact, we'll get the opinion of one of our contributors and bring my man AJ on.
Good evening, sir. How are we?
What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Bear with me 1 second.
All good, all good. So just give me your initial thoughts on this, AJ, man. Sounds like there's interest in Wilf from Atletico Madrid, man. What do you make of that?
There we are. Right. So I like it a lot more than I like the other moves. It's the only move out of them that kind of makes sense to me. Mm-hmm. How can I describe it? The thing with Wilf, right, is I personally don't want him to leave. But if he's going to move on to Champions League football, club like Atletico Madrid makes him, I feel like at a club like Atletico Madrid, you get a couple more years out of him, possibly more than you get at Palace, or better than going to like somewhere like Dubai or Saudi Arabia and stuff like that. I know the money's good, but he'd still achieve his Champions League dream or his European dream. It's a top league, so and Atletico are no bums, so they he would get he'd get games there, he'd play regularly there, he'd have a shot at a few trophies as well. Yeah, at the end of the day, if that's where he's going to go, I like the idea of that more than one of these Saudi Arabia clubs, to be fair. But, at the end of the day, whether he stays, whether he leaves, we move on. But, yeah, man, I like it. It's the one link I've seen that A, makes sense, and B, I think would be pretty decent for him.
Yeah, I think out of a lot of them, it makes sense because it checks more boxes for him. It makes more sense. You know what I mean? I think with that team, he has a chance to really go in and play and get a chance to get some minutes with them. They're playing Champions League football, high level league as well in La Liga. Um, so it makes sense. Can they pay him? Will they pay him? That's a topic of discussion for sure. But yeah, I think out of all the links, I think this one feels like it could be the most real, most potent one to me. Like reading it, it kind of feels like it could make more sense than, like we saying, him going to the Saudi league or something like that.
I think it ticks boxes for him, and it kind of sort of backs the argument that he wants to move on to bigger and better things. There's very little downers to him going to Atletico, to be honest. I feel like he'd play. I mean, they're losing Carrasco, from my understanding. I think Carrasco's pretty much out the door.
Yeah, Barcelona is where he might be ending up.
Well, depending on what Barcelona do, because they've got their own sort of financial circumstances, and they got their own key player they're trying to re-sign themselves. So, you know, yeah, I like it, man. You know, yeah. At the end of the day, I don't want him to leave. But at the end of the day, if he's going to leave and he's going to move on to a club that has European football, I feel like he'd definitely get games there. I feel like the league, speed-wise, he'd be all right there. The only thing that does concern me is the anti-diversity or racist issues they have in Spain. Yep. You know, that can't be ignored.
And that's what Henry said here. I worry about Wilf if he goes there with the racist abuse in Spain. I wonder if that will play a factor in the decision. I mean, you would think that it has to be a part of the decision-making process. I mean, especially if, you don't know whether or not he's going to take his family with him or not. But I think things like that play a part in whether you would make a move too. Now, thing is, you're not going to escape racism. It's everywhere. You know what I mean? But to what degree and how blatant is another thing though too.
I think another thing he has to take into consideration is in Spain, the way that you will be criticized and ridiculed and ran over by fans, it's very, very different. It's quite similar to France in the sense that fans can have access to you a lot more quicker and easier. You know, all he's got to do is have one stinker, and those guys will be waiting outside the ground for him. Those guys will be waiting outside the training grounds. We've seen that at Real Madrid. I've seen that at Barcelona. I've seen the kind of hate that can potentially go with that. But in all fairness, if he can overcome that, which I think he's got the ability to, does he want to move to another country and learn a new language at this part of his career or his life? That bit, I don't know. It's not mandatory. It worked for Kieran Trippier. He did really well there. I think it's working for Matt Doherty. He's doing all right at Atletico as well. So, I don't know, man. I think there's definitely more pros than cons. That's the one link that I've seen so far that I like. It's the one that makes me feel like it's good for us because he gets to move on to a bigger club. He doesn't come into the same league. He moves on to a club that is constantly in Europe and will get the odd trophy. So if he does want to collect a few accolades before he finishes, his chances are going to be a lot higher than he would be at Palace naturally. But at the end of the day, I'm still going to be gutted. Anything that doesn't involve with him signing a new deal. But at the end of the day, no player is bigger than the club, and eventually you got to let people go. So it is what it is, man. But the Atletico link is the one I like the most. I guess it will just depend on what kind of numbers they offer out because I don't know what kind of salary they're on there, but I can't imagine it being astronomical or even bigger than the alleged 200 grand that we're offering. But you don't know. No transfer fee. He's pretty much ready-made in terms of what he can do and bring to the pitch. So maybe that might, that's down to his agent to make that decision and sort that part out for him. We are aware that obviously he's been offered way more money out in, the Far Eastern leagues and stuff like that. But
so we'll
I don't know, man. It depends what his agenda is at the end of the day. Nobody really knows what he's saying. Nobody knows what he's doing. I could imagine this going on for at least another month before we find out any more information, to be fair.
And it very well could, because like we talked about, he's under contract with us until the 30th of this month. So who knows? And I doubt that he would probably go beyond that deadline as far as, making a decision and figuring out his future, because I think a big part of this situation he's in is considering Palace. So, I would hope that not too much goes further than that. So But let's go to the chat real quick and see some of their thoughts and opinions real quick before we move on. Saw one. Let me see. Where is it at here? Didn't Felice go back as well? Yes, that is correct, Tim.
But then the rumor is he might be still sold
on the move somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, is he worth 110 million pounds though? I mean, I didn't see. He's all right, and he looked all right at Chelsea, but he looked all right at 12th place Chelsea. So I don't know. I'm not too sure. They're obviously trying to throw him out the door. So
obviously, there's something there, whether it be with Diego Simeone or what have you.
Well, remember Simeone standing down as well, so that's another factor. Atletico got to think about who their next coach is going to be. Although not having the opportunity to sign Wilfried Zaha for free would be crazy.
So he's stepping down for after this season effectively. So he's not going to be there next year.
So you got to take that into consideration. That's one factor I didn't even consider, to be fair, because we don't know who their new coach is going to be or how they're going to
play. Because they play a very specific style of play under Simeone right now.
And it's not that they've been irrelevant since they've been relevant since he's been there, but they definitely weren't as bigger a club when Simeone was through the door.
Yeah,
you probably need to get an Atletico expert more on it. But as far as I understand, they were always there and thereabouts, but they weren't like a big boy team like they are now. So without Simeone, that's going to take time to transition. And if the new coach doesn't fancy him, then he might have potential headaches there. But Nah, I don't think Felix is an issue, because the problem is they play in two different positions. Felix is essentially a number 10 or almost like a second striker, whereas Wilf's a winger. So
because he doesn't have the pace to be on the outside.
Nah, it won't be an issue at all.
So do Atletico have deep pockets? I mean, they got money. Yeah, I mean, they got guys that are there that they've either sold, or they've either bought, or I mean, you got guys like Felix on their wage bill, Griezmann, Saul, Rodrigo de Paul. Like, they got a legitimate team. You know what I'm saying? A lot of it has to do with the fact that they've been playing in the Champions League almost annually since Simeone's been there. So they got money for sure.
I'd just like to know what their salary brackets are over there, to be fair, because obviously we know Real Madrid and Barcelona are in their own stratosphere in comparison to the rest of the league. So, I mean, De Paul, Griezmann, these kind of players, I mean, what kind of salary are they on? And will Wilf be able to get that same sort of salary with the rest of those guys? That's the question I'd want to know. But then I'm sure his agent, because, I mean, this is what you have to be careful of. All we've heard so far is Atletico Madrid have only made an inquiry.
Right.
So we don't even know, we inquire, players inquire about managers and everything all the time. So, until you see something a little bit more concrete, because obviously it could be his agent just reaching out. I don't think Palace are going to throw even more money at Wilf, to be fair, because from my understanding, we've given him one of the best offers on the table.
And that's a record offer, like, as far as wage for us all time.
So I don't know, man. It's hard to tell. I mean, it depends what version of Atletico, because whatever you look at it, it's going to be a different Atletico Madrid next season anyway. So they may even want to turn it into one of these scenarios where they might want Wilf to spearhead that, depending on what their plans are. What you got to understand is there is a lot of free players available, and Wilf isn't the only winger available in the world. For free, might I add. So he could be just on a shortlist they've got. It could be that they're just reaching names out. I don't know. Yeah, Luke drives a fair point. I know that the share in the money in La Liga is not fair. It's not like the Premier League. It doesn't get shared out evenly. It's like Real Madrid and Barcelona have a large chunk, and then everyone else kind of has to scrap for the money between them. I mean, look what happened to poor Valencia. They were all over the place, to be fair. So, Villarreal, I know, has been suffering as well. So there's a lot of clubs out there. Who's the other one? Girona. They're another club that have been really suffering as well. But they used to have an affiliate to Man City, but even Man City can't really pump, or the City Group can't pump a ton of money into it.
Yeah, because they still own them. Yeah, City Group still owns them.
Exactly, and they've just lost, what's his name? Alex Garcia?
Yep.
For free. Can't keep him.
Yep.
So, whereas what the thing is with La Liga, what you got to understand is you could be a top baller but then move to a mediocre Premier League side and get more money. That's a fact.
Yep.
Even if Wilf went to Nottingham Forest, he'd probably get more money than he would at a Osasuna or I don't know, a Valencia and stuff like that, and potentially even Atletico Madrid. So that's the only bit I'd be interested to find out about. But then if Will's not fussed about the money, then what does it matter?
Right, exactly. So Tim said, I actually think he's thinking hard about staying, and that's why we haven't heard yet. But I agree that a move can make sense for him better than other rumors. Yeah, for sure, I agree.
Agreed.
Absolutely. 100%. So moving on to the second piece of news today, Premier League scouts are paying attention to Jack Clarke with offers of upwards of 15 million might be prompted in a conversation for him. That's reported by iNews. So I guess this conversation around a guy like Jack Clarke could be seen one of two ways. It could be seen as a Wilf replacement, or it could be seen as a Wilf understudy. Conceivably, what do you think?
First and foremost, he's not a Wilf replacement. He's a player that has been doing very, very well at a League One that only just became a championship club last year. Granted, they had an amazing season in the championship, but let's not get carried away here. Like, the problem is, there's never going to be a Wilfried Zaha. There's just going to be whoever comes in and they'll do their own thing. I don't like the idea of somebody always being the next
people take
version.
The word replacement really like
I wouldn't take it literal.
It's like a left wing replacement, should we say there?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I understand, he's got a lot of potential. He's not scared of being shooting in front of the goal. Apparently, he scraps in and really bombs down the wing for them really, really well. However, that's at Sunderland. I feel like it will be a very different beast or a different monster in terms of what he gets at, a club like Crystal Palace or any Premier League team, to be fair. What I don't understand is he only cost £4 million 2 weeks ago. How has he then gone up to 15? Big up Eagle Eye, by the way.
Big up.
What I can't understand, what I can't fathom is how has his price skyrocketed so randomly? Like, you were £4 million a minute ago. Now all of a sudden you're 15. I don't quite understand what's going on there. But at the end of the day, I do like the idea of having additional wingers in the team. I don't think we should just rely on the likes of, I guess it depends how our attacking layout is, but, Ayew, Elise, and, potentially a Wilf, because I don't think Abue is ready. I'm not actually convinced Raksaki's ready. I don't know if Scott Banks is ready. I'd rather get somebody a bit of a level up that can potentially come in, potentially slot into the squad. Yeah, I don't know. I like the. It's one of them ones. The same with the Lerma deal. The deal individually is decent, but I need a combination of players. I don't just need one or two of these average mediocre players coming through the door, because that's just not going to improve our squad. Like, if we bought Jack Clarke with the squad we have now, including Wilfried Zaha in it, there's a debate there to say, does he get in the bench? I have no idea, because I don't watch Jack Clarke week in, week out. I've seen a couple of YouTube clips of him. I've seen a couple of his numbers and stuff online, but it doesn't excite me. It just feels like a very cheap stopgap. But yeah, I disagree with Sibs a bit there. 15 million just seems a little bit too much, because in all fairness, the reality situation is he's only had one decent season in the Championship. Before that, he was a League One substitute squad player. He's had his breakout season, granted, but we need to get out of that habit of just buying, well, not even us, top teams that need to get a habit of overspending on Championship quality. We pulled it off with Eze and Elise, and I'd even put Gay in that equation, because obviously he was on loan to Swansea and did exceptionally well. But that is not always the answer. If it was like nearer to that £4 million mark I heard a couple of weeks ago, all day, it's a no-brainer. But I don't understand how his price is £15 million. I just don't think he's worth it. Or if we're going to spend that kind of money, I'd rather him be on loan for another season at Sunderland, because I don't see him fitting into the squad straight away. I don't see him breaking into the team. I mean, I could be wrong. Elise and Eze have come on leaps and bounds, but remember, they weren't also instant hits as well. They had to kind of slowly integrate into the team.
And if you think about it, man, like, Ebbs was successful in the Championship for 2 seasons in a row before we ended up signing him. You know what I'm saying? So he had some sustained success. Elise, on the other hand, we only paid $8 million for him. He had one really good championship season, and we paid $8 million for him. You know what I mean? So that kind of is different in a sense too. We didn't pay a more inflated price. I think we paid 16 for Evs, but Evs had a little bit more to it than Elise did, and it kind of makes me think like that whole 15 million number. It kind of makes me feel like the Chuba Akpom thing. It's like, he finally, this guy had one good season. Do you just
Yeah,
throw out the
I'm
money
not.
at
I'm not going to get sucked into a flash in a plan player. I mean, maybe I need to see or watch more of him before I'm convinced. And you know what it's like, man. We might end up buying him, and he might turn out to be the second coming of Ronaldo. Like, you know what I mean? But I feel like we could use that money for better places in the team and better players. If he's one that we get on the end of having a decent window, because I'm of the opinion, and this is obviously only my opinion, that we're going to need at least 4 players, 4 serious first teamers. And I don't put Clarke in that category. I do think we need another winger, but I'm not sold on the idea that Clarke might be the answer. If we do get the 3 or 4 players that we need, i.e. the right back, the striker, and possibly another midfielder, then I'm all for it. But I think that if we are allegedly budgeting this summer, we need to be we need to box a bit clever than
that. Yeah, because he's the type of signing that you don't know if he's going to be ready to be a starting caliber player from the time that he comes in. And exactly. it sounds like that's what you're needing right now. That's what you're wanting. You want a guy that has the opportunity to come in and we feel like can handle being a part of a Premier League starting 11.
And remember, it will be a very different walk of life. I mean, the differential between, I guess, the likes of Eze and Elise is they're from London teams. They grew up in around London clubs. They grew up in a London scene. That's not anything different. It's a very different culture shock when you're moving from an area like Tyneside to then come all the way down to London. But I could be wrong. At the end of the day, if I had to flip a coin in it right now, I'd rather leave it in the end of the window.
And this is a good point. This is a good point here by Tim. He played 15 games the season prior. It was 17 games the season prior and only 15 games the season before that. So we're talking
League
about,
One.
But and look how many matches he played in. You know what I mean?
And that was League One. You see what I'm saying? It wasn't even like
so very much like Tim said, we'd be paying primarily for potential. And I think that $15-16 million, like I need a little bit more guarantees of success for me personally.
I mean, hell, if we're going to spend that kind of money, I'd rather top up another $5 million and go get Alex Scott from Bristol. You see what I'm saying?
Because I mean, he's had sustained success at the championship level, and
I'd rather take a risk on that because that is a player that, put it this way, he's at the stage where a lot of clubs are aware of him. You don't get yourself to that kind of hype without having something about you. He's almost been there and done it at championship level as well. And he's scrapped with the likes of a club like Bristol City. I feel like that money could be I don't know, man. I feel like that money could be used for better places in the team for now.
And Geiger says here, I'd be so pissed if we were budgeting this summer. This should be our time to kick on. We are now an established Premier League team. And I completely understand that insight, the outlook. Because it's one of those things like, should we be sitting here banking on a very inexperienced player to hopefully come into our first team, start for us, and have success right away? I don't think that should be the type of conversation that we're having for a team that's been in the Premier League for going on 11 years. You know what I mean?
But that's the problem. Financially, we don't know. Like, granted, there's not even been a leak in like, because with the Chelseas, the big boy, the big six essentially. Those clubs always have a little bit of a leak to say, all right, well, there's 200 war chests, there's a 300 million war chest, there's a 150 million pound war chest. We don't really know what's going on anywhere because the last thing we heard out of the boardroom was the two of them weren't chatting. So, since then, I know Steve Parish has done his little cute media flips and all the rest of it. The man works in media, like he knows how to flip things to his advantage. But we have no clue what kind of money we're going to be spending this summer as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's well documented. Steve Parish obviously spends money conservatively anyway. That's just his style. Like we've always had that, and that just seems to be the case. You're never going to change the man's idea unless you kick him out the door, which you can't do because you'd have to buy him out substantially. And his share is not even worth the time of day anyway, in terms of the real business world.
Right.
Yeah, man. The thing is, we don't really know what budget we're working with. I mean, do we have 50 million to spend? Do we have 20 million to spend? Do we have no money to spend? Are we just waiting to see what Wilf's going to do? Are we still working on contracts? Because there's a couple of players we don't know what's going on with. I think there's still a few players' contracts up in the air as well.
Yep.
We don't know who the manager's going to be. Like, there's so many things that need to start coming into fruition, but that's the horrible frustration of the next sort of 10 weeks that we're going to have. Because the problem is, until these questions are answered, the clubs start releasing stuff, and we start seeing players holding shirts. We start seeing managers having press conferences. I mean, what was it today? I saw, was it Burnley have already started their preseason?
The preseason, yeah, I saw that too.
I saw that. I looked at it like, hang on. I had to go on my phone. I had to go on I had to go on my thing, and I had to double check to see when the championship season finished, just to do the maths in my head.
Mm-hmm.
But then maybe that's the way Vincent companies, you know what I mean. So we don't
also, and you also have the ability to do that when you have more things in place. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
When you have a manager in place, when you have a philosophy in place, when you have at least enough players to move forward with training with, you know what I'm saying? When you have these things in place, then you can afford to do something like that.
I almost feel very similar to the end of Hodgson pre-Vieira era, where it looked like we were going to get Favre, then we were going to get this guy, then we were going to get that guy, and then nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then sort of bang out of nowhere, Vieira came in overnight, and then all of a sudden, like almost every other day, we were signing players because it was like we only had, 11, 12, 13 players, and then out of nowhere, it was like, bang, this player, bang, this. It was like, Elise, Gay, Anderson. Like, I mean, are we about to go for another one of those summers? Because I don't know, man. It's a very frustrating time because when other clubs are making moves and other clubs are starting to do things, it kind of makes you sort of, envy. You sit back and look at what's going on with your own club, and you kind of sit there and think, all right, come on, do something now. Or, I'm getting a little bit uneasy here, mate. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But, at the end of the day, boy, I'm just hoping they make the right decisions. That's all I'm going to say about it. I just hope they make the right decisions because I'll cheer on my team regardless, but I'd rather change.
A big part of that is what TTF1 is saying here. We've done good business when we spent recently. We just got to keep the faith that the right decision will be made.
I would debate that because we had the original Vieira window. Then we had the January we bought Mateta that didn't play out.
Mm-hmm.
We got the Corey in, and then a bunch of kids that weren't ready for the first team. I mean, if I'm there to be corrected if I'm wrong, but I feel that Vieira's first summer was a good window. Then we had the Corey sign in the following summer. And we had the odd little January.
And that was when we got the Corey, was also when we got Sam
we got
Johnson and Abue.
No, Sam Johnson's fair. No, I took that one out of the equation. To be fair, I completely forgot about that one.
Yeah,
I don't know. The thing is, right? It's like I'd always looked at it like it's a squad building process because I know we're not a Chelsea or we're not an Arsenal, we're not a Man United. We can't bring in 6-7 players and spend £200 million. I'm aware of that, but at the same time, I'm also willing to be patient and follow the squad building process and stuff like that. But the problem is, if we're not seeing a progression on the pitch, or you're seeing certain deals or bargains being made around you, that's where the frustration can potentially lead.
I think what he was trying. I mean, I'm trying to interpret it, but I think what he meant here not necessarily was the amount of moves, but when he spent the money on players, said players produced.
That's fair. Yeah,
I think the only one. I think the only one that we could say it hasn't would be Edward
and Mateta, both of them.
Yeah, I mean,
January permanent move. What was that? Not this January. Last January.
How much was that? Did we spend 8, 10 on him?
It doesn't matter. He's not lived up to the price, bro. It could have been 1 million. Like it don't matter.
I mean, because I know we spent a good like 16 on Edward, and I think he was probably one ones we spent on that didn't work. But I would agree that for the most part, the money that we put out has those players have panned out for us. So, but I'm gonna move on to the last bit of news here. So, according to reports, one of our backup goalkeepers has apparently signed up for a new club. Signed on with Rangers. Actually, it's Jack Butland has undergone his medicals and completed them to be the new Rangers player. Should be a done deal with the contract agreed, and that was reported by Fabrizio Romano. So Jack Butland, who was on loan with Manchester United last season, we actually had an option to extend him for an additional season that we didn't decide to exercise. So, AJ, just give me your thoughts on Jack Butland moving on to Rangers.
A once wise American man who specializes in the NBA said a very famous quote.
Mm-hmm.
We don't care. We don't care. We don't care. Like, who cares, bro? Like, who cares? Like, do you know what, right? It's a shame it didn't work out for him, but at the end of the day, bro, he weren't ripping up trees here. In terms of ex-England goalkeepers, it seems that Sam Johnson was the better investment between the two. Let's keep it moving. Like, at the end of the day, I'm happy with the goalkeepers. We don't care. When I tell you something, we don't care. Yeah, saves us a bit of salary. He had his little loan deal to Manchester United and chilled on the bench there. I mean, Jack Butland's not been a top keeper for a very long time. Maybe he might find his home. In terms of being fair to his side of things, maybe a club like Rangers might be ideal for him because he'll probably get the game time. He'll probably stand out as a top goalkeeper over there, but didn't really do much or rip up trees when he was here. Thank you for your services. Thank you for conceding a ton of goals. See you later.
I mean, I think that's what it is, man. I mean, you thank him for his time and let him go about his business. I mean, here's the thing. The club didn't extend him for a reason. You know what I'm saying? There was a reason why he didn't get extended. So it's like, I think with the wages we were probably paying him, it's probably just best that we let him go. Not only that, we got some talented young goalkeepers that are coming through the ranks too. So the idea of holding on to a guy like Butland really is counterproductive in a lot of ways. As far
we're
as
not a big enough club to utilize it. I mean, if we had if we were known for massive cup runs or, we had a European campaign to sort of worry about, then I would have probably said, you know what, we need a big squad and all the rest of it. But literally the same point you made is fair. Vicente Guaita and Johnson can fight out for number one for me, at least for next season. I do like what despite the speculation of what was said in the last Palace news, I do like where Joel Whitworth is potentially going. And I also like the look of Goodman as well. So it's just a case of, for me, one of the young ones have to go out on loan. And then let's bring through one of them as the third choice.
Yep. I mean, I think that's the thing, especially depending on who you can get a loan for, because I think we've seen separate articles that have expressed the fact that we're looking for loan opportunities for both Owen Goodman as well as Joe Whitworth. So
I don't know, loaning out both of them.
Like I said, I don't know if it's a both and or just more of an either or type of situation.
Isn't it like one's 18, one's 19? So I might have that wrong, by the way, but sake of argument, I'm thinking we keep one with the under 21s, let them sort of start playing, and then should we need them, i.e. third choice keeper, there you go. Should an injury crisis arise, which happened this year.
I think Remy Matthews is coming back too. He's still under contract with us, I do believe.
Okay, fair enough.
That's another thing. So if Remy Matthews is coming back, then potentially we could afford to loan both of the young guys out and just keep Remy Matthews as the third guy. So
fair enough. I mean, Remy Matthews is a bit of an anomaly to me, to be honest. That's a strange one, man. I will never understand.
He's not that old. He's not that old. It's not like he's just an older guy. Like
he's a fair age.
Isn't he like in his late 20s, like early 30s? Like he's not.
Yeah, but no, actually, he might even be older. I might have to Google that one, but
Let me look that
He's
up.
been around for a while, but that's with the goalkeeper world. He's always been either a second or third choice goalkeeper, no matter where he's been. I think we got him from one of the lower league teams, like you know what I mean. We just
He's
brought him
29.
in.
He's 29.
So do you think he's gonna dethrone White or?
No, it's
Actually,
just like I'm saying, it's just
stranger things have happened. He might come in and just do a madness. You don't know, Do you know what? Remy Matthews. Nah, do you know what? The reality situation is I don't think I've ever seen him in goal apart from a preseason friendly. So I have no opinion.
Right.
I have no opinion. I don't really know.
Really quickly, I want to shout out Gabrielle watching from Brazil, wishing a very good window to the London brothers. Thinking if someone Botafogo player could fit at Palace and some good Palace players move to Botafogo. That'd be kind of fun, wouldn't it?
Gabriel Di Carvalho. Come on, bro. Recommend some names.
Shout out, bro. We appreciate you tuning in too, Gabrielle, man. Really appreciate the love and
how's it work? Is it Viva Botafogo?
I don't know because they're in Brazil and they speak Portuguese, so I don't know if that will be.
That's a very fair point. To be fair, they speak Portuguese over there, don't they? Although I must admit, I've noticed that a few odd Palace games, I'm starting to spot a few Brazil clubs shirts and. I support the Botafogo fans, man. So always come over and say hi, man. They seem like a very, very sociable, welcoming set of fans. As somebody that grew up in Stockwell, I am very familiar with the Portuguese minority, to be fair. So we'll go get a coffee at Luis Santanos in Stockwell. Don't worry about it, man. I got that covered.
Yeah, man, for sure. I mean, I feel like I've seen a few matches where you see those black and white uniforms in Sellers Park. So it's kind of cool.
They're there.
Yeah. Here's hoping. We'd love to see some cooperation between the clubs. Yeah, man.
That would be nice.
It's coming. I think it's coming.
They must have a little Ronaldinho hidden in there or something, man.
Oh, what's the kid's name? Matias Nascimento. Because
we were talking about getting him a while ago, but that kind of just went a bit cold.
Yeah, and they got another guy that's pretty good there, Patrick DePaul.
Haven't they got the Raphael brothers there as well?
So
the Silver twins there, innit, or something like that. I was so sure I remember reading that.
Yeah, so they got some really good players, but I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see some movement between the clubs and things, or whether it be on the lower end with some young guys, or like I said, I'm still waiting. Now, I think one of the things that has to happen is we start to see some guys get loaned out to Molenbeek now that they're playing in the top division in Belgium to get guys experience and stuff too. So wouldn't be surprised to see that start happening soon.
Although shout out to Antwerp, Tony Alderweireld.
That was a crazy ending. So I saw a tweet that said going in is at the 90th minute.
Yeah.
That St. Gilloise was going to win. Then in the 91st minute, it was going to be Genk winning it. And then when Tony Alderweireld, Genk.
Yep.
They were going to win it. And then in the 94th minute, when he scored the goal, Antwerp. That's
Alderweireld was like, nah, come outside, bro. I'm not having none of this. Bang. Beautiful.
Yeah. And that's crazy. Like he's got them like tatted on his leg and all that stuff. Like he came back to help them win. Yeah, he came back specifically to help them win the Belgian league, and that's the first time they won it since like 1956 or something like that. Something crazy.
Nah, man, it was very magical to see, man. One day, FA Cup final, one day, or League Cup final, whatever. One day.
The way that they do it, bang! The way that the Belgian league does it is madness. Like the way that they determine their winner is crazy, man. So they like do their own Champions League. That's kind of cool inside the league.
No, I'm wrong with that, mate. No, I'm wrong with that. Hopefully we can send some of those kids out there and get some loans going, man. Get them some nice bit of experience.
You guys, like I said, if we don't decide to keep guys like O'Brien or Phillips, I think they'd be great going out there.
I want O'Brien and Phillips in the first team, preferably.
Yeah, but we gonna wrap it up. But any last things you wanted to say, my man?
Nah, hopefully things are gonna start picking up soon. Fingers crossed. And then you can start seeing a bit of a cockier grin on my face as we get the signings through. We get the manager through the door.
Yep.
and I can start, getting a little bit more hype, to be fair. But I'm loving the interactions, guys. Make sure we keep up the likes and subs, spreading the words, spread it on social media.
For
At the
sure.
end of the day, to help the channel grow, man. Let's get there. Let's get there.
For sure, for sure. Drop likes, comments, subscribe. We appreciate you all and all your support. We've been on here for about 40 minutes and we've seen easily over 100 people viewing live. So we appreciate you all. But we'll be back for more content coming up, man. But as always, up the Palace.